Thanks for coming, everybody. I'm Kevin Leja. I am a member of Indivisible Bellingham's leadership core group, and it's an honor to welcome you to another in-person meeting. We encourage you and your like-minded friends to attend all of our regular all-hands meetings every third Monday of the month. And we'll be sending out some emails about what we're going to be doing next month. If you're not on our email list, please sign one of the sheets at the back table, and we'll get you on the email list. And please, for my sanity, please print clearly. At Indivisible Bellingham, we acknowledge that this beautiful place in which we live, Whatcom County, is the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Lummi and Nooksack peoples, the original inhabitants of this land, who are still here and who continue to honor and bring to light their ancient heritage. We humbly offer this land acknowledgement with gratefulness for their enduring care of our shared lands and waters, and may we honor and nurture our relationship with our Coast Salish neighbors as we shoulder our shared responsibilities to their homelands where we all reside today. And while a land acknowledgement is necessary, it is on its own insufficient, since we continue to benefit from occupying this land. And in an effort to bring actions to our land acknowledgement, we are researching options to support and bring awareness to local indigenous efforts and programs, and hope to have more information at our next meeting. For those of you joining us this evening that might not be familiar with us, this is our mission statement. Indivisible Bellingham is united by the principles of fairness, inclusion, tolerance, and a just society for all through nonviolent civic engagement, political involvement, and consistent pressure on elected officials. We have organized and supported numerous actions since its inception after the 2016 elections. As a group, we agree with Joan Baez that action is the antidote to despair. The work we do requires some funding, and we welcome any help to defray the costs of our activism. Indivisible Bellingham is an all-volunteer, non-profit organization and gets by on the goodwill and generosity of its members. We have rent for this meeting space, costs for our website and email blast system, an occasional ad in the paper, printing costs, and more, and we certainly appreciate anything that you can give. We have a couple of donation buckets here, like this evening, or you can make a donation on PayPal or Venmo by searching their sites for Indivisible Bellingham, or you can write us a check, and our address is on our website, indivisiblebellingham.org. And finally, I'm happy to introduce this evening's program, the Whatcom County Executive Candidate Forum. Seated before us are three of the 6 candidates running for the position. All 6 were asked to attend. Ms. Flowers indicated she would attend, but called this morning to cancel due to an illness in her family. Mr. Purdy responded to our invitation asking more about who we were. We responded and didn't hear from him after that. And Mr. Gill, I think, is on his way. I'm not really sure, but he is expected to be here. Maybe it's a parking issue, I'm not sure, but we haven't heard from him. Okay, all right. So our candidates tonight in alphabetical order are Barry Buchanan, Suquant Gill, Alicia Rule, and Satpal Sidhu. And I will read a brief bio presented by each candidate. Mr. Buchanan is a Navy veteran, having served 7 years in naval aviation, after which he held an engineering position with Lockheed Martin. As a public servant, he was president of his neighborhood association, served on Bellingham City Council, and has served on the Whatcom County Council for the past 10 years, where he is currently chairperson. He has owned a business, is a musician, and a 4th-generation resident of Whatcom County. Alicia Rule, whose family has been in Whatcom County for 5 generations, is currently serving her 2nd term as state representative for the 42nd Legislative District and can count her successes on education, child welfare, and health care, increasing nurses and counselors in schools, expanding access to outdoor education for all students, and protecting access to abortion and reproductive care, as well as expanding gender-affirming health care. She owns Rule and Associates, a small therapy practice in Bellingham, and is a lifelong volunteer for Kids in the Kitchen, an annual event combating childhood obesity. Also community health fair to help uninsured and underinsured kids, as well as for community organizations like Junior League. Mr. Sidhu is the incumbent in this race. He's a Fulbright scholar, licensed professional engineer, educator, business owner, project manager, and has served on the Whatcom County Council, and as a board member on almost too many organizations to mention. He counts as his successes in the position a successful response to the pandemic, expansion of behavioral and mental health services, new homeless outreach and shelter services, major investments in affordable housing, tiny home villages and way station project for homeless residents, support for child care expansion, significant investment in salmon recovery, and redoubling of food resiliency, flood resiliency efforts. Please welcome them. We will maintain decorum tonight. Disruptions from audience members will not be tolerated, and those persons, if any, will be asked to leave. We have curated questions from Indivisible Bellingham's leadership team of 10 people, and also worked in questions from our members via online form and email. There are lots of questions and we have limited time, so some that were submitted may not get asked. If you have questions for the candidates that are not addressed in our regular meeting, we encourage you to meet with them after our meeting that ends at 8:30 if they are able to stay. In lieu of an opening statement, the candidates will get 3 minutes to answer our first question. All other answers will be limited to 2 minutes. Your answers will be timed by Karen in the back of the room. You see her back there? Well, look at her every once in a while, because she'll be timing you. She will hold a 30-second sign when you have half a minute left, and a thank you sign when your time is up. So please respect the time requirements, and if you feel like you can answer the question in 10 seconds, that's great. Okay, so...
Could you ask them to stand up when they...
I'm sorry?
Could you ask them to stand up once more, because you really can't see them.
Sure. I'm sure some of them would like to do that. They're very interested in having you stand up when you speak. In all of these questions, as much as possible, we're looking for specific examples as opposed to theoretical or general answers. We've heard from and read about your general positions on the following questions, and our strong preference here is for you to go into specifics as much as you can. In order of the order of responses is going to rotate among candidates, so the first will be answered by Ms. Rule, the second question will be answered first by Mr. Sidhu, and so on. So we'll rotate. And now we will get to the first question. Please tell us why you are running for county executive and why voters should select you.
Thank you. Can you all hear me okay? Didn't do anything to it. Hello? Oh, there we go. All right, great, thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for being here tonight. It's hard to be up here. This is challenging, but you all make it easier just by being here with your friendly faces, so I appreciate you taking the time tonight. My name is Alicia Rule. I've had the honor of representing you in Olympia as your state representative. And we've done some good, bold policy in a lot of very important areas, and I am ready to bring that same ambition right here, roll up our sleeves at home, and get to work quickly to solve some of our major crises right here at home. We have a fentanyl crisis right at our fingertips. We have people living on our streets in cardboard boxes, and we have people in the woods in completely inhumane conditions. We need to work quickly, efficiently, and with great focus to solve these problems using all the resources available to us. That's why I'm running to be your next county executive. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thanks for organizing this forum. My name is Satpal Sidhu. I'm the incumbent and I'm running for re-election as county executive. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve as your county executive for the last 4 years. And as I started my term, pandemic, floods, train derailment, child care crisis, you can count all that. But I kept my hand steady. You have never read in any newspaper in the last 4 years, county executive doesn't know what to do. County executive can't make decision. County executive is faltering because these newspapers are nobody's friends. They want to sell newspapers. So what it really is the proof that I was able to handle unforeseen circumstances with steady hand, and my experience came in play. I presented 2 budgets, no layoffs, and they were approved unanimously by the council. My governing principle has been, what binds us together is much stronger than what divides us. And when I took the oath of the office, I became county executive of everybody in the Whatcom County, not a special group or a special interest. When there are issues in any part of our county, I'm responsible for that, and I took that responsibility. I worked practically answers. When pandemic happened, there are 9 people, county executive, sheriff, and 7 mayors. We are the emergency operating council. And 9 people, all the decisions for 2.5 years were unanimous, because I was able to put it together that what can we do for what is best of our community, because this pandemic is much bigger than each individual of us. So we have to work together. But that's a practical way of motivating everybody and focusing on what is in front of us. I'm a first-generation immigrant, very proud of it, and I'm the first colored person ever elected to council or as county executive. And I am the person who came here with $5, 3 degrees, but I was able to show that even being a person of minority in India and here, and growing up in a poor country, did not deter my determination to serve my community. And that's why I'm asking for your vote and be re-elected. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everybody. I'm Barry Buchanan, and I'm currently the chair of the Whatcom County Council. And I'd also like to thank Indivisible and everybody here tonight for coming out on a nice summer's evening and spending it with us. I'm running because leadership matters. Bold leadership matters. My experience in the United States Navy, I was a supervisor in an avionics shop. That was trusted leadership. We had to make sure that when a pilot shot off the front of an aircraft carrier, that he was able to navigate and get back to the ship. That's trust. That is putting a lot in the hands of a leader. I also, when I got out of the Navy, I went to work for Lockheed, and I was lead engineer on projects like the Hubble telescope, many shuttle programs, and then I moved over to the Triton submarine program. I have been chair of the Whatcom County Democrats for 6 years, back in 2001 through 2007. I served 4 years on the Bellingham City Council. I was elected president of that council in my 2nd year. At the Whatcom County Council, I've been elected 5 times as chair of the Whatcom County Council, all by bipartisan votes from my fellow council members. I even do marching bands. I was a drum major of Shuckson Middle School, Bellingham High School, and then one of my favorite roles was I led the Bellingham High School alumni band down the street for 14 years, all around the county, and that was a privilege to be able to do that. I want to bring that leadership, that bold leadership, to make big decisions on housing, big decisions on crisis, on climate crisis, big decisions on our criminal justice system as we work hard to reform it. So I'm endorsed by the Western Washington University Young Democrats. I was very proud to get that from hearing our young people speak and hear their needs. And I'm also endorsed by the Rivers Collective here in Bellingham, and I take that very seriously. I'm very proud of that as well. So I too would appreciate your vote coming up on August 1st, and thank you very much for being here tonight.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. I forgot to mention, ballots have been dropped in the mail, and if you don't get a ballot by the 19th, you should contact the Whatcom County Auditor's Office. Something may be wrong. So you should be getting them pretty soon. I think I got ours yesterday or day before yesterday. So, and I also forgot to start passing this around. So there's no requirement that you donate, but if you'd like to, that would be much appreciated. The second question we have for candidates tonight is your top priorities. Please state your top 3 priorities that you will work on as county executive, and please explain how you will handle challenges and produce meaningful results. 2 minutes.
Thank you. There are several priorities issues. It's not fair just to pick 1 or 2, but I think we got to do that in this window of time. 3 things I picked are housing crisis, water crisis, and public safety. The housing crisis is so much that I just want to remind you, we are adding 1 new Ferndale every 4 years or less. That's the extent of our need for housing. We need 5,000 homes a year for a decade or so to get even so that we have enough 5-7% rental vacancy rates and all that. So what will I do? First is the land use policy revision. Build duplex, triplex, fourplex, sixplex on the single family zoning places. Build smaller homes, 800, 700, 1,200 in between square feet. Make lots less. Make it only 3,000, 4,000 square feet lots. If you go in old neighborhood, that's what we were before. 800 square feet house, 3 kids, they all live fine. And I think that we need to make more land available for housing. Wetland bank, water crisis. No politician has touched this for 50 years. Water issue. And what I did is I worked with the tribes. I think that I supported adjudication, but at the same time, we need to work collaboratively to find the solution. New jail facility, I firmly believe treatment over punishment. That's the principle, that's the new ordinance tells us, and that's how we have been able to put a coalition together of all type of different people to bring this ordinance. We have a lot of work, hard work to work with that. Time is up. Thank you.
So my 3 priorities are climate change and climate resiliency, housing crisis, and criminal justice implementation. For climate change, there was a resolution that the council passed last year that really puts a lens on climate change for our 2025 comprehensive plan update that's going to be coming up very soon. It also talks about equity and how we can deal with climate change in an equitable manner throughout our county. So that's important. Housing is super, super important. I want to do something very, very bold. I want to do a county-wide housing levy that's similar to the Bellingham Home Fund. It would be a game changer for our community to be able to get that kind of funding and do the kind of things that we need to build out all throughout the county. My 3rd priority is the implementation of the criminal justice project. Executive Sadhu mentioned the ordinance that was just passed. It was a lot of compromise. I was pushing for more services. We got more in the end. One thing I would do as executive, there's a piece in the ordinance that talks about transfer of the funding mechanism from more to services in 4 to 6 years. I would cheat back towards the 4 years because I would love to see that services implementation of that money go earlier rather than later. I think it's important. I think we'll see great results if we do that. I'm a big believer in all the programs that we have supporting that, which is GRACE, which is our EMS frequent flyers that are served by the GRACE program, LEAD, which is the Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion program, and then we have the ART, which is alternate response, which makes sure there's a behavioral health person involved in a lot of calls that go out through 911 that are behavioral health oriented.
Thank you. Actually, it's Barry's turn.
great. No problem. Thank you. My three priorities are housing and homelessness, behavioral health and addiction, and public safety. And I believe that they all overlay one another and must work together well. And that's what I've been doing for my whole career as a behavioral health professional and a social worker. I've been working with systems, both directly with people. I know their real stories. I've been side by side with people as they've traveled these journeys. Sometimes they overlap, in fact, often they overlap. What is a behavioral health patient one day might be involved in the criminal justice system the next day, or sometimes at the same time, and sometimes not at all. We have to build systems that work well together for humans, so that on one day, if it happens to be intersecting with a particular building, the next day it works in conjunction with that system, so that humans are treated with dignity and that we have effective solutions to the problems that we're facing. And we need to do it more quickly, we need to do it more efficiently, and we need to improve right now. We don't have time to wait. We don't have time for another commission, committee, or planning. It's time to get to work. We have people dying every single day from fentanyl, which will soon begin, and it already is, becoming tranq. If you're not familiar, it's coming and it's here in Whatcom County. We cannot waste any time. This is a crisis that's not getting enough attention, and it's impacting everything. In addition to that, we have a public safety crisis that's impacting everybody, but especially our most vulnerable, and I look forward to serving you in that way.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Our third question is, we'll start with Mr. Buchanan. Working with others. Give an example of from your past experience of how you worked with stakeholders to solve a problem that was most felt insurmountable. We'd like to know about a specific example where you've brought together a wide array of diverse people and/or groups to accomplish your task.
I would say the most memorable for me is the working on the Justice Project and assembling the Stakeholder Advisory Committee. It was a process that lasted about 18 months from conception of when the committee went to work, working on trying to come up with a holistic criminal justice system that has goals, visions, values, and recommendations. Those four things that came out of the needs assessment went on to an implementation team that I led. And it was comprised of the co-chairs from the Incarceration Prevention Reduction Task Force, myself, and Deputy Executive Schroeder. So we worked those 18 months to really look at how we could hone the system where we could get services to people, both in the jail and out in the community as well, because there is a stigma about having services in the jail when they could ultimately be out in the community. So I think that's super important. But there was probably in the neighborhood of 70 people on the team I assembled to do that. The stakeholders were service providers, government officials throughout the county, lived experience folks. We really tried to find lived experience folks. We had one focus group that we actually had to divide into two, and that was folks that had been incarcerated previously and or their families. So we got a flavor of that demographic as well as we were putting together the implementation plan. So it was really a long process, like I said, 18 months, and the result was we had an ordinance that passed the council on Tuesday.
Thank you. Well, the one thing you know for sure is that I am not afraid of a challenge. I went to Olympia and I took bold steps to do what was at the time politically unpopular policy. I introduced it when I knew that people needed a solution and the parties were fighting, probably more than any other topic. So I'm talking about what happened when we realized that we needed to see some action in supporting public safety. It was one of the hardest things I've ever led on in my life. It mattered to me because it mattered to keep people safe and it came with hard conversation. I'm not afraid to have a hard conversation when I know that that's what it's going to take. That kind of courage is what's going to take to be able to protect and take care of people. That's what we have to do, even when it's not politically popular. So I was able to bring both parties together, both the House and the Senate, to come up with policy and law that nobody loved a lot, but everybody loved a little bit. And that's really kind of what we've got to do in order to move forward together. We have to be willing to have conversations that are really uncomfortable. We have to be willing to bring unlikely people in closer and ask more, not less. We have to be willing to say things like, we need a yes and solution. And so that's what I will continue to do. I will continue to do that in Whatcom County because we know that all of our neighbors matter. Every single one of us, and together we're so much stronger. Thank you.
Like I explained before, as the pandemic started, we were 9 people who were the Supreme Council for the county. And if I was the CEO of that and I had to manage everybody's expectations as well as do the decisions, I was able to make everybody work on unanimous decisions for 3.5 years. Now, I'll give you 2 practical examples. We got $20 million as county, Bellingham got $4 million, all the rest of the cities got $2 million from the CARES Act. And I was the first one who proposed to these 9 people, why don't we pool our money? They couldn't believe that I'm giving up my power as county executive, the same power to Mayor of Sumas or Mayor of Luxembourg. 1 vote each. But I thought, this pandemic is bigger than all of us. We have to work together, and that has to be a practical way. I can't just talk my way through. I have to show them that I trust their judgment, I trust them as my partners, and that's what we did. We pooled all our money. In 1 year, we deployed all the money, every dollar. There are counties in Washington state, they had to give their money back because the commissioners couldn't decide what to do with that. So that's the example of collaboration of being together. The other thing is the EDI board, that's the money we give for economic development. Affordable housing, low-income housing was not eligible for that. I had to work through the 25-member board of EDI and 7 council members to change that. Within 16 months, we changed the rules so that now affordable housing has the same standing like an industrial project, and they can get money from the EDI fund to build low-income housing. So these are the 2 examples where diverse type of people who can come together to do good for our community. And that's how I have led the county, and that's how I intend to lead the county. Thank you.
Our next question revolves around the jail and mental health. Do you support the funding proposition for the new jail, and if so, how would you go about convincing people it's the right way to go? If not, what do you see as a way forward in getting a new jail? Please also touch on how mental health needs would or could be a part of the jail effort. And this starts with Israel.
Thank you. I do support a new facility for rehabilitation, and I support the proposal that's been put forward. There are several things about this that I like. First of all, I want to tell you, if you haven't yet been to our current facility, you will see that it is unsafe, inhumane, and really archaic. We know better, so we must do better when it comes to taking care of the people who work and who are inmates in this facility. It's probably worse than you think if you haven't been there. So we have to update it. Nobody else in Washington has a problem like this. We are unique because we just really haven't kept up with the times. So we can't do the kind of good, innovative work that we know actually rehabilitates people because the facilities don't equip us with that. So that's very important. But I also want to talk about behavioral health. These things work together. I personally have worked in my professional life on reentry services with people. They, you know, when people hit the worst time in their life, and there are lots of reasons, it's complicated, right? We have to make sure that they have the services they need to be able to re-enter back in a successful way, to stop this revolving door of just crime and then coming back into an institution like a rehabilitation center. So what I found back when I was doing that work is that it's really challenging for them to be able to find housing, to be, we put up barriers for folks to be able to be successful. So we need to make sure that our community is safe, but we also need to make sure on the tail end of that, that we put together better systems, which we don't have now, to make sure people come back into our community in a safe way and that they don't reoffend. So I think, both of these things can happen in conjunction with one another. You'll always know that I'm a champion for behavioral health. It's one of the most important things we can do on every part of that spectrum, from prevention to intervention, from inpatient to outpatient in a whole system. So I'm continue to be committed to that work, and will do so in support of the jail and behavioral health, working in good systems that work together. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a question we are dealing with as we speak. Early in 2017, when that ballot failed, we learned the community wants treatment over punishment, and we listened it good. And this compromise is one compromise addressing the mental and behavioral health. Never has been proposed that more than half of the total levy, will go towards services, community programs, the re-entry programs, behavioral health, capital facilities, and the services and the operations. Only 50% will go towards building the jail, because it's a one-time thing. You build the jail, then rest will be all going to the services. So that is a huge, huge compromise. And I pose the same question: is it perfect? I don't think so. It is perfect. We can never have a perfect solution when there are so many diverse views. Best we can do is what is something we can all live with? That's called consensus. That's called compromise. And I think this is something that we can all live with. I want to repeat the council member Carol Frazee said in the council meeting the day of passing this, and please listen very carefully and do that. She said, if you want to talk about this ballot measure, or it is good, I want to vote yes or no, do three things. One is read the ordinance yourself. Don't ask somebody to tell you what is in the ordinance. Read it yourself. Second thing is read the implementation plan, again yourself. Not ask from somebody else, don't listen to others. The third thing is tour the jail. If you can do these three things, it will automatically tell you you want to vote yes or no. That's a perfect way to decide, because there's so much information going back 5 years, 7 years. Thank you.
I kind of went over the process that I led that resulted in the ordinance, and I want to add one thing to Councilmember Frazee's list, and that is read the needs assessment as well, because that was the document that provided the guidance for the ordinance, provided the guidance for the implementation plan. There is a lot of great things in there that I think you'd really benefit from reading. One thing that came to my attention and everybody's attention during our process of conducting the needs assessment was the subject of competency restoration. What that is when a court deems a defendant is not capable to stand trial because of their mental state and they're not competent, they are ordered to go through a restoration process. That process takes place at Western State Hospital, and there has been a backlog there that has been up to a year. So you have people sitting in jail that might have a 60-day sentence if they were ultimately convicted, and they would have to sit in jail for a year waiting for restoration. That is just so wrong. So what I did was I formed a spin-off group called the Competency Restoration Work Group. It's members from the court, prosecutor's office, public defender's office, myself, and some folks from the Incarceration Prevention Reduction Task Force to really look at this, to find out what kind of regional solutions that we could find, because this is not something that's unique to Whatcom County. This is a problem that's statewide that we have to tackle. So I'm on the board of the ASO for North Island Behavioral Health that could help do some regional work. They serve 5 counties. So I think that's super important when we're talking about criminal justice reform.
Thank you. The next question regards the condition of the jail. This was a question that was posed by one of our members online. As executive, how would you ensure our next sheriff properly manages and maintains the jail so it doesn't get to the point of disrepair? And the first respondent is
This is nothing to do with your questions before. This is something, the question, next number 5 question is about homelessness. This is one you got on the email.
Yes, this is a follow-up. to that.
Okay, yes. I think county executive has been given a directive. If you read the implementation plan, and we have 2 new committees, there's a finance oversight board, which will account for every dollar collected in that levy, where and how it is spent. They're separate. And there is a jail project operations committee that would look after jail operations, how jail is being operated. So there is a built-in mechanism. We spent so much time on that we do not want to do what happened in 2004. It's still fresh in people's memory. Tax was put on, but the results were not delivered to the people. And we made sure that this does not happen again. If I get elected, I'm there 40 years. Jail probably will be built in 40 years. So this is something we were very much aware of that it would not be person-specific, say county executive-specific, it's council-specific. So we built in the mechanism, no matter who is county executive, which the council is, that process must be followed. So it is built in for that. If somebody has any other specific question, I would be happy to meet in private. Thank you.
You want to take a shot at that? Follow-up?
That's a great question. You know, what Executive Sidhu said is my view too. We will have oversight, but I think it goes a little more granular than that. You know, when I was in the Navy, when we were out at sea, one of the biggest things we had to watch for was corrosion from the salt water. So we had a vigorous preventive maintenance program for our aircraft. We need the same kind of a preventive maintenance program for the jail. We need to be able to test the elevators. We need to be able to test the locks before the doors fall off their hinges like they have been lately. That is important. Our maintenance department can then, you know, check HVAC flows. They could do all those kind of things that they wouldn't have to do in a troubleshooting or crisis mode if they did some preventive maintenance. I think that would go a long way in helping maintain the jail. I think as far as the sheriff goes, the sheriff's responsibility is operations. So, you know, they just need to make sure that there's not overly aggressive people that are damaging things. I think that's something they can do on an operational side of things. But I think the ultimate responsibility for the maintenance and the upkeep of the jail is that of the executive and the facilities department.
The county executive is, I think of it as most akin to being the CEO or the manager or the executive director of the county and all of the services that it provides. So to me, I look at this as a management issue. It's our job to make sure that there are tools available, that there's training available, that there's budget available, and accountability and oversight is in place. When people have those things in place, I expect that they will perform to the best of their ability, and that will solve this problem.
Thank you. The next question is homelessness. The number of homeless children and adults continues to increase as identified by groups such as Whatcom County, the Interfaith Coalition, Family Promise, and school districts. Bellingham City and Whatcom County residents identify it as one of the top 3 local issues to address. Describe 2 or 3 specific ways that you will use the resources of the county executive's office to address some or all of our homelessness needs. And your comments are also welcome regarding the recent document, The Big Lift, presented to candidates by local homeless advocacy groups. And we'll start with Mr. Buchanan.
Homelessness is a big issue here in Whatcom County. in 2017, I formed a group called the Homeless Strategies Work Group that worked for, I guess, 2.5 years in providing study and looking at the problem, and it came up with a package of recommendations that was passed on to the Housing Advisory Committee. But I think some of the recommendations that came out of there are like safe parking, because the homelessness problem is a continuum problem. It's not just one element. There's a lot of different avenues that we need to approach. We need emergency sheltering for cold weather, for hot weather, and smoke, and all the things that we're seeing due to climate change in our community. We need, like I said, safe parking. One of the things that's grounded in principle in the big lift that Kevin mentioned is what is called the 4 Square, and that is a tiny home village that has basically 4 kind of camps and a centralized service building. I believe in that model. I think it's great. I am actually traveling with 2 of the authors of the big lift at the end of this week to look at a potential site in rural Whatcom County for a larger tiny home camp. I think that's important to do this work. But I think we have to revisit some of those recommendations that came from the Homeless Strategies Work Group and make sure that they're getting done. Check in with the health department. But I am a big believer in taking bold action in trying to do as much as we can to solve this issue.
Homelessness does not have one face. Homelessness has a myriad of faces. It can look like small children who are living in a car. It can look like a veteran. It can look like a senior female. Our housing has gotten so expensive that I'm seeing on the regular basis folks who are being priced out of their homes, out of their rental. Their rent's gone up. They're not able to meet their needs. And time is ticking with no resource. We don't even have community resource for them in the short term or the long term. We also have an affordability problem. Housing costs so much that even people who are working 1 and 2 jobs aren't able to afford what we have here. So we have to do lots of things at the same time. We need emergency shelter. There's no question about it. We're not there. We're not where we need to be. But we also, at the very same time, need to be doing multiple actions. We need to streamline our permitting process so that we can get more buildings built. That has to happen. I saw a lot of really good things in the Big Lift proposal. One of the things I really liked about it, it was well thought through when it came to some of the use of new tools that have been approved by the state legislature, like the peer counselor model. I'm not sure if I have that exact terminology right, but I love the hand-holding through this because this is hard stuff. This is not just a building problem. It's complex. Sometimes it's a building problem, but sometimes it comes with a lot of other things, and we have to look at humans. This is about people. This is about people who are in the worst times of their lives, and some of them who have lost hope. So we've got to work boldly, we've got to work effectively, and we have to do lots of things at the same time. Not one solution, but many. And we've got to do that because these people who are experiencing this are us, and they matter. And we have an obligation to meet their need. Thank you.
Hi. I have 3 specific ways as county executive what I will do. The first thing is, I just want to make it clear, I support the big lift. And another thing is, maybe it seemed like new to people, big lift was proposed in 2018 by Jim Peterson, the Homes Now. And if you look at Garden View is a big lift. If you look at Swift Haven is a big lift. Only thing is, in this big lift, they are saying 4 pods of 25 each at one place. We, when this crisis was going on, I being county executive and emergency being going on, I ordered 50 tiny homes. That's how the Garden View was built. That's how the Swift Haven was built. So this is a great idea. I liked it at that time. I liked it now. But I'm saying this is not something new which has come up and we didn't know before. Now this is how, but this is only for 100 people. There are 1,100 homeless people. This solution is only for 100 people, 10% of the people. So this is not perfect. or the ultimate solution, but it's a good step. I support it. This is what I will do or continue to do. City of Bellingham just bought 4 acres on Guide Meridian to solve this problem of relocating. I'm promoting relocation and expansion. That would be the big lift, implementing the big lift idea. And we will put our money and our planning with the City of Bellingham because it's in the city. I will continue to support the way station. Now that is a real project where wraparound services are available to all the homeless people every day and people who are even transient. So that project, as a county executive, we gave up our health building for this project, and it is going to cost us $11 million. So things take time, that results don't show up tomorrow, but we have spent $11 million on the same problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Related to the last question, this is about affordable housing. Which stakeholder groups will you bring together to address the county's housing crisis for low and middle income families, and what will be your highest priority strategies for this problem? And we start with Ms. Roll.
More is more. I really think that the key to this is inclusivity. Nothing about us without us. Let's bring in all the stakeholders. That means everybody. That means sometimes bringing in people that you don't think matter and bring them to the table and saying, look, this is a shared problem. We can't afford not to bring everybody to the table. We need more homes built. We need more programs run. We need more money budgeted toward the problem. And most importantly, we need money secured that's available. We need to be strategic about it. And we need a decisive leader. Thank you.
Great question. I touched on this a little bit before. Just to clarify, this question is more related to the cities, less to the council, to the county council and county executive, but we do have a large role in that. These are the 2 things I will do, 2 of my highest priorities. One is increase the number of total housing units available in our county. Second thing is increase the number of low-income housing within that subgroup. How will I do that? The first thing is land use policy reforms in the next comprehensive plan update, which is coming up in 2025. Work will be done in 2024. Promote 2-plex, 4-plex, 6-plex, triplex, whatever, in the existing single-family zones. If you have a house and you want to redo that house, you can build a 2-plex or a 4-plex, right in the same place. That's how we can agree. Promote smaller lots. 3,000 square feet lot is quite a big lot, and you can build a uptown 2-plex on it, and 2 families can be there. Build homes which are 700 to 1,200 square feet. Increase those number of homes. These are the 3 practical ways I will solve this problem. Rent control units and unsafe rental units, these are the 2 things. The initiative in front of the council is the right one, that we should have some control on rental, because 25% increase in rent year over year is unsustainable. We must do something about it. And I think that can be done collaboratively. Most of the rental owners are willing to sit down on the table and solve this issue, except few. Maybe large corporations, you don't know who is running them, you can't talk to anybody. But if you look at the unsafe rental units, that's another thing, that high enforcement. But what you do, if you do a substandards and do high enforcement, you have to take those units out of the inventory. They're not available for living. When people, if you tell somebody, I will charge you $400 less rent, they will be quiet. They will go start living in those places. This is possible only when there is an inventory. When you have an alternate place, you can go and do this. Say, I'm going to shut you down for 6 months. You clean this up, then you can rent it. So thank you. Okay.
So thank you for that question, because it really, I've been thinking about this a lot. When I talk about wanting to put together a countywide housing levy, I want to do that through a stakeholder and public engagement process. The same kind of process I ran for the Justice Project. And the people that need to be at the table are the lived experience people, and that's unhoused, that's people that have been through the criminal justice system, that's renters, that's property owners, but it also includes service providers that can help manage the services that are needed for that population, as well as decision makers need to be at the table, so everybody hears the same stories, everybody hears the same solutions. Our only answer is to come up with more funding. We can have all the plans in the world, and that's great. I think we need those kind of plans, but we need the dollars and the cooperation of the citizens in the county to be able to pull this off. So I've been kind of calling my idea of about a countywide housing levy. That's a big lift. That's a huge lift for, especially for out in rural Whatcom County, for voters. So it's going to take a very robust stakeholder process to be able to find those compromises that'll work for people, both rural and in the urban. I think we also need to look at impact fees in the rural county now. It can level the playing field of pricing between rural and urban properties, but basically we do need that kind of a stakeholder process involved to come up with a plan that's viable for everyone in the county.
Thank you. So you touched on some climate issues already, but this question is regarding climate change and addressing the effects of climate change. How will you work with other government entities to affect progress in mitigating the crisis? And we'll start with Mr. Sidhu.
Thank you. I have already been working on this issue since 2019. If you remember, I was here in last campaign and I said, I will plant 1 million trees. Of course, when you go on a job, things change, and that's what happened, pandemic came, but I didn't stop on that. We have a non-profit organization in Whatcom County called Whatcom Million Tree Project. It took us a year to get the IRS approvals and everything, and they've already saved or planted 250,000 trees in spite of COVID, in spite of all these things happening. So I started on this very early. The other things what I have been able to do, even during last 3 years, I established the Climate Advisory Committee in 2019, issued the Climate Action Plan in 2022. So work with the committee to do the inventory, what is happening in Whatcom County, what are all the sources of carbon footprint, and do all the inventory and make a climate action plan. Then I hired a brand new climate manager, senior level manager, and sole job of that person is to look at climate, because climate is an overlay on everything. It's not just one little thing by itself, like a facilities department. It is in every department, everywhere. So that's that person's job, is anything's happening in any department, they overlay on that. Then we started the implementation of the climate action plan. So this is what we are trying to do in the phase 1. We are assessing and documenting the carbon footprint of all county buildings as they exist right now. And we are doing a carbon footprint of all the fleet, industrial trucks, regular vans, regular cars, everything, all the county. We're starting with the county organization. Then we will expand that to rest of the private and the other places. We can give the model to smaller cities. They don't have horsepower to do this on their own. So we can create a template, give it to them, so that then they can start implementing in their thing. What we were planning to do is electrifications. Thank you.
I first want to clarify that those things that Mr. Sidhu just mentioned weren't just done by the executive's office. The council was heavily involved in those as well, so just to clarify. Climate action and climate resilience are my #1 priority, and I mentioned the comp plan and looking at what we do through the lens of the resolution that was put forth in 2022, which does have that keen eye on climate change and all the development and all the updates that we do to the 2025 comp plan, but it does not stop there. It has to be implemented throughout the day-to-day implementation of policies and creation of policies going forward. Otherwise, we're just shooting ourselves in the foot. I think we have some opportunities for some regional cooperation if we work with our newly formed, what's called SWIS, which is a 5-county legislative and executive county collaboration effort. It stands for Snohomish, Whatcom, Island, Skagit, and San Juan. So those 5 counties are working together on a lot of issues, and I think we can pool both our lobbying resources and our intellectual resources of those 5 bodies and really come up with some great ideas for climate change. We have to do electrification, we have to electrify our fleet, we have to do those basic things, but we need to push hard on climate change. It's here now. In just this month alone, we broke, 3 days in a row, we broke the highest world average temperature on Earth on a record. While at the same time, it was raining so hard in Vermont that they'd never seen anything like it. So it's here now, it's here. 2021 floods are a fine example of that, and I don't mean fine being good, but definitely is something that has to have our full attention.
We all know that climate change is in our everyday. We just have to look outside and see it, whether it's floods, fires, or anything right in front of us. The most important and the most impactful and powerful thing we can do right now is leverage the lots and lots of dollars that are available federally and at a state level. The policy's been set by the state legislature. It's bold, our markers are clear, it's implementation time. We need to get the carbon emissions down. We need to work on getting our local miles down. We need to make sure that we're building out our infrastructure for electrification. I really am excited about actually this opportunity to increase bikeability and walkability. You know, even in our small cities, folks are excited about this. We love to be able to reach things by foot and by bike. So we can do that, and the money's available. We don't have to spend more money to do that. Let's go after it. Let's get it, and let's get it going so that we can see real change right here at home. I think that that's an area that has loads of possibility ahead of us, and I also think that the big possibility is that we can go after our climate change goals and increase good living wage jobs, many of those very good union jobs that we're missing. Those are the kind of innovative solutions that are going to get us to the point of being able to, increase quality of life for the people who are living here, increase opportunity for our youth as they grow up here, and maybe they want to stay here as they become adults, and fight climate change right here at home without costing any extra money.
Thank you. Our next question revolves around vulnerable groups. The first responder will be Mr. Buchanan. A number of Whatcom County constituency groups sometimes feel unsafe due to discrimination and or being targeted. Identify some of those groups and 2 or 3 specific ways that you, as county executive, would extend and expand protections, services, and access to support these groups.
So I think some of those vulnerable groups have been mentioned tonight, but I'll go ahead and say it again. We have the unhoused. We have folks experiencing behavioral health and substance use disorder issues, addiction. We have disabled people. We have the elderly. We have youth. We have a lot of vulnerable population that is really suffering right now. They're suffering a lot due to being unhoused. I think implementing some of the things that I talked about and many of us talked about when we're dealing with homelessness will be a good start to that. But we need consciousness in everything we do about vulnerable populations. We need to build that into our policy DNA. So when we are developing policies, we do have that lens of vulnerable populations, and that we're making sure that we're seeing them when we develop policies. And when we implement them, are we implementing them correctly? Are we doing it in a way that benefits them, or does it harm them? And sometimes that's a fine line, and we have to be mindful of that. So I think just working together and making sure that we have emphasis on that in everything we do will take us a long way in dealing with our vulnerable populations.
Thank you for this question, because I think it needs more attention. We have a question that has asked us what to do about people who feel unsafe. And I have a problem with the question, because people are unsafe. Our most vulnerable people are unsafe every single night as they're trying to stay awake, walking the streets, as they're trying to survive, literally survive on our streets. So we see that. We also see people being vulnerable to violent crime in our community. That is happening. And as a social worker, who's many times been called a bleeding heart, I'm here to tell you that our public safety system is part of that solution. We have to keep people safer than we're doing right now. I'm also concerned that we have targeted crimes. We have hate crimes happening right here in our community. It just happened recently. And so we really need to put in proactive steps to address racism and to address targeted crimes toward those who are a part of the LGBTQ+ family. All of these things are here in our community. They're right in front of us if we just take a minute to notice. I think we need to work on both addressing accountability toward those who are perpetuating these harmful, dangerous crimes, but also prevention, that we need to be working really hard with our youth. I'm worried about our youth. The things that I'm hearing make me concerned about our next generation. So we can do both of those things at the same time, and I think we can do a lot of really good, powerful work in how we implement and oversight the business of the county.
Like describing vulnerable groups, there are many ways to do that, and some of the descriptions you heard. And the descriptions I had was the minorities by race, ethnic origin, gender orientation, disabled folks, and many more. What is happening is that we already have a lot of laws in our books at local level, state level, and federal level. The issue is enforcement. If some discrimination happens to them, the person feels, should I even go and complain, or should I do a lawsuit? Our justice system is so convoluted, so expensive, and time consuming. You can't wait 2 years. Justice delayed is justice denied. That's what happens most of these cases, is that you cannot find a resolution. It has happened to me personally, and you remember in the last election time. But I think this is what I will do as a county executive. First thing is invest more in enforcement. Second thing is Racial Equity Commission, as you know, that within a record number of 2 years, a time of 2 years, that we've been able to form, and we are in the process of seating it and hiring an executive director for Racial Equity Commission. That will have some teeth. The way its charter is built, that they can question, that people can go to a body now and do the enforcement, not themselves vulnerable, saying, what do I do now? Now they have a person, place to go to. And we have seeded it with $600,000 between city and county to, for 3 years to commission to take hold. We have made investments in the county organization in education. So we have now made, within this 2023, we will train all county, 1,000 county employees. We have done 250 people already. We are teaching them DEI, that diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Then we have a course. It takes 1 day, and we are making every employee go through, and we'll share that with private companies. Oh, okay, time is up. Sorry, thank you.
A lot to answer in 2 minutes, right? The next question is regarding boards and commissions. The county executive appoints members to boards and commissions. In your estimation, what are the 5 most important boards and commissions? And are there any of the current boards or commissions you'd like to see eliminated? And we'll start with Ms. Rill.
Thank you. I, of course, would prioritize, first of all, I have to say, it's a little bit silly to think about what are your 5 favorite, because it turns out these all in balance are important, and the timing is important. So, you know, I might not choose at the moment one that has to do with, I don't know, insects, but if a murder hornet infestation comes in, that's going to become more important. So I want to talk about balance, but I also want to tell you about some of the things I see as important right now. Homelessness, behavioral health, public safety, economic development. You know, again, a social worker, so I come in with this lens, but I think a lot about Maslow, and Maslow has this hierarchy of needs you might have heard of. At the very base is people need to have enough money to survive. So that's really our jobs, is to come forward with that and make sure that we are supporting opportunity and growing that opportunity in our community. And then lastly, I would just also add that this racial equity task force commission, I think it's a commission, is really behind where we need to be. We need to be working more boldly in that area, and I can't believe that we're here at 2023 and it's just getting started, but I know that we're going to move it forward and support it and do some good work in that area too.
Boards and commissions, there are 55 different boards and commissions. Some are council advisory and some are county executive advisory. Every commission has been formed because there was a need in our community. You know, the quarry gravel mine going on, we have a surface mining advisory committee. We have ag advisory committee. So we cannot say these are important, these are not. At different times, different issues, every advisory council becomes important and the voice is important. Like some of you may have seen Life Act, that Lummi Island Ferry thing going on. So I wrote 5 things. Whatcom Racial Equity Commission, Planning Commission. You know how important that commission is. IPRDF, the Incarceration Prevention Task Force, Parks and Recreation Commission, and Public Health Advisory Committee. Now, the question was, which boards you would like to eliminate? I couldn't find one. I brought a list of all 55 commissions with me, and I was saying, okay, who am I going to nix? I couldn't find one, even one, because there is a dire need for that particular thing in our community. And we, as council or executive, cannot just arbitrarily make decisions. We need community input, and that's a mechanism we have created to get community input to our decision making. So all these commission boards are important. Some are more active than the other. Now that depends on who are the members. And like I said, some are members are appointed by the council and they report back to the council. Some are appointed by the county executive, they report back to us. But whatever report comes to council or executive, we share with each other. So this is very important mechanism of our governance to get public input into our decision making. And it's very important part of our government. So we need to keep them all. Thank you.
So I couldn't stress enough how important our boards and commissions and advisory committees are. They really help us see things from a more on the ground level, and we can develop policies then to fit what we hear from our boards and commissions. My list is extremely similar to Executive Sadu's, except my top one was climate action. The Climate Action Committee, then the Whatcom Racial Equity Commission, then the Planning Commission, then the Incarceration Prevention and Reduction Task Force, and then the Public Health Advisory Board, which is super important, as you can imagine. As far as getting rid of boards, you know, when we hired our first, not our first, but at least my first legislative assistant staff person in the council office, he did a study of all the boards and commissions and kind of did with the mission of finding, are there some that could be eliminated or combined or who knows what. He was looking with a fresh eye on all of these boards and commissions and he came up with the same answer. He didn't see over time why you would get rid of any of them, because there's just all that work needs to get done, and it's maybe you're not using a certain agricultural committee right at the moment, but next week you might. And so I am firmly in support of keeping all of our boards, commissions, and advisory committees.
Thank you. We're going to throw a question that wasn't on our original list at you guys. This is from Carla online. She asks, or suggests, please provide 3 specific examples of actions you will take during your term as the county executive to build and maintain constructive relationships between the county and the tribes. And we'll go with Mr. Sidhu first.
My favorite topic. So they call me a real Indian. That's my nickname. No, I have started developing a relationship with Lummis when I got on the council. Actually, before that, when I was dean at Bellingham Tech, we worked with Northwest Indian College. That's how the relationship goes back. The practical ways. When on the Eliza, island, there was a shellfish agreement done by the farmers and the tribes. I was part of that. Of course, the adjudication, a lot of people think adjudication is the only way. We need water conservation, we need water quality, we need salmon habitat. Adjudication does not do that. It just tells you who is the most senior, how much water they got, and then they stop. We need to solve the problem, not define the problem. And that solution will come with a collaboration. And that's what I have spent 3 years on, and like I said, 50 years nobody touched it. And people were afraid either tribes will be mad at us or farmers will be mad at us. I said, no, I'll take that risk. And I think that's my relationship, a building of relationship with them. Now on the Slater Road, that raising the Slater Road and flood, that is such a issue, long-term issue, Marine Drive, Slater Road, and all the Ferndale area. So I have developed a collaboration with them to solve this thing, put a new bridge on Slater Road, on the river, much wider, and rearrange the levees. So it was over $100 million project. We met with Maria Cantwell, we met with Rick Larson, because transportation and flooding, so that we can obtain the money together. So that's what I've been able to develop a relationship with the tribes. Nobody ever attended Nooksack Council, ever. I started attending every of their council meetings. Thank you. Time is up.
Yes, our tribes are our partners, and we and our neighbors, we need to work with them to solve so many problems. I recently attended the first ever Washington State Tribal Opioid and Fentanyl Summit out at the Silverine Casino, I believe it was last month. And it was very informative. There was, I would say the first day, there was close to 1,000 people in that room. It looked like it anyway. It was just wall-to-wall people. It was really an encouraging turnout. And the program, although heartbreaking at times, of course, it was very valuable. And you could see people really trying to figure out ways to work together, and both with the tribes and with our, some of our local delegation from the state and from the county as well. One thing that I've done, and just recently, is we had a vote on the tubing on the South Fork. The tribes were very adamant about damage to the salmon runs, damage to the reds, which is the eggs, that occur through the activity of recreational tubing up on the South Fork between Acme and not Wickersham, but can't think of the name of the whole town. Anyway, we voted in favor of that ban to not allow those tubers to go down and disturb the salmon. The salmon they can trample the eggs, you can startle them. They're already very stressed coming up the river. And that's something we can do to help our tribes, because they rely very heavily on the salmon for not only for their subsistence, but their way of life. So working with the salmon recovery, working with the opioid crisis with them, and working on transportation. I had to bail out a program that was a conservative senator was trying to steal away from the tribe, a transportation project for years in my first term, I believe it was, and went to Olympia to make sure that didn't happen.
This is a great question because it's about relationship and it's about trust. I am continually developing relationships with many people in our local tribes. We are lucky enough to have 2 tribal partners right here. That is no small thing, that's a big deal. So I feel honored to be able to work side by side in equal partnership with them. It's ongoing work, and trust is only as good as the relationship is kept. So I think this is an ongoing question. How do we continue to keep those relationships strong? And that's something that I'm committed to. We've done great work together. We've been working on addressing the fentanyl crisis. They are leading the way with the Wellness Center that I was very happy to secure money for. They're going to be continuing to lead in that area and will be good partners, but also with some of the flooding response, salmon recovery work, and really it's everything. They're our partners, so we have to work with them on everything, and I've been honored to do so. In addition, I would just add that I've got some really good relationships statewide with the larger tribal community, and I have many partners that I can call on and check in with, and those relationships are valued to me, and I use them in my work regularly, and I look forward to doing that here as well.
Thank you. We have another question that came from online and also phone call. And this is for anyone who would like to answer. You don't need to answer it if you don't want to, but it comes from Bob, John, Don, and others. What are your thoughts about the proposed ABC recycling metal shredder facility being planned in North Bellingham regarding noise and pollution? Anybody like to take that? I think,
I'll take it. I'm the county executive, I have to take it. Can't hide. I think its issue is complex. It was in the plans from 2021. That's when the property was acquired. The property, which is with the cement plant, is heavy industrial now. I have not checked, I want to be honest with you, I have not checked the actual zoning of that particular parcel. But if it's property of the cement plant, it has to be heavy industrial. Now, if it is zoned already and somebody applies for a permit for that particular zone, we cannot arbitrarily say, you're not allowed. I can understand public reaction to that. It's very genuine. And at the same time, they are client of the port. Port has lease on that property. So how they are dealing with it hasn't come to us. Our involvement as county is when they apply for permit being in the county, it will come to planning development services. So that's county executive's job. But whatever we do, it has to go to the council for any variation or anything. And so there are three different entities there. The Port of Bellingham, Whatcom County Executive's Office, and Whatcom County Council's Office. So it has just started to move, or we haven't seen the actual documents yet, and they will be more clear. But I just wanted to give you the lay of the land. That's where we are right now. And I'm not taking any particular side or particular decision at this point of time. Thank you.
I'll take just to kind of add on to that. It is kind of new on our radar at the county, but there is some things that we can look at, and that's potentially a change of use. They're not making cement; they're shredding metal. So that's something that we could look into as far as permitting goes. So I'm open to looking at things just like we did with Cherry Point. Remember the years and years and years we spent on Cherry Point that we finally came up with some compromise on regulations for expansion out there. So I think that we need to at least look at it through that, that lens and see if that change of use could trigger some conditions that we might put on it.
I'm still learning about this. This is a new issue to me, but I think this is a perfect example of where we really need to be able to bring together unlikely allies to the table and problem solve. I can completely understand. I mean, shredding metal, it brings to mind images of maybe a Metallica band. This is really disturbing the neighbors, and so that's real. People want to be able to have peace at their home, and so that's a very legitimate concern. And also, it's very important that we continue to maintain a working waterfront. So this is the leadership that we need, is to be able to take two things that we value that conflict with one another and not choose one or the other, but look for innovative solutions. So that's what I'll do.
Thank you very much. And we'll have closing statements now, or reflections, from each of the candidates, and we'll start with Ms. Rule.
Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for engaging. There's a million things you could choose to do, and you chose to do this, which is exactly what's going to move us forward. We are not going to do this alone. We're going to do this together. We have significant need in our community. We have neighbors who are hurting and vulnerable, and we haven't yet met them where they need to be met. That's why I'm running to be your county executive. I think we can be more efficient, I think we can be more bold, and I think we should stop talking and actually do something about it. So I really feel committed to delivering for you, and hope that you will join me in that effort. You know, really what it comes down to is this. A lot of things come across our desk. I have been working in this government role as a state legislator and have had to make tough decisions and make an opinion on absolutely everything. There's nothing left unsaid. But none of it matters when I walk outside of my office and I almost trip over a cardboard box and realize there's a human being in it. That's what we need to address. It's unacceptable, and we need to move faster. Thank you.
Thank you. My values have been, all my life, is hard work, strong ethics, and transparency, and community service. I have served on 15, maybe more different boards in my 35 years in Whatcom County. The other part is that our water, our air, our soil, our public safety, housing, environment, they're not partisan issues. They are the common thing. That's why I said that my motto, what binds us together is much stronger than what divides us. And that's the principle I used in the last 4 years, and that's what I continue to use. Of course, I'm a Fulbright scholar with engineering and an MBA. I have 40 years of experience dealing with making companies, working with people, large $200 to $500 million projects, leading those. And my steady leadership has been evident in the last 3.5 years, that how I handle something out of the blue hitting you and you don't lose your balance. I presented 2 balanced budgets, no layoffs, and another thing, I got 30-something endorsements from all elected officials from federal, state, and local. Check my website. And one thing I just want to bring it, I'm very loyal to the Democrat Party. Everyone since 2008 who won the election, my hand was in there. I raised tens of thousands of dollars for the party. I raised money for each individual candidates. I attended every year. I attended Northwest Fair, not just because I'm running for election. If somebody else is running for election, I was there for them. I raised money for them, I delivered them votes, and I doorbell with them for everybody. And I think this is my turn now. I'm in front of you, asking for your support and your vote, and please vote for me. Thank you.
I've talked a lot tonight about leadership, about that pilot that trusted me to make sure he got home safe, that his systems would bring him back to a ship. Talked about my elected experience. I talked about my priorities, climate change, housing, and criminal justice reform. But I want to talk about something else during my closing, and that is something that I'm very proud of all my colleagues that are running and all that I've seen on this campaign trail this year. You know, we have a crisis in our democracy and our electoral system in all of the rhetoric, all of the poison. You don't see that up here. We're here because we want to be public servants and we want to do the work that serves the public. I just feel gratified when I can look at this community and see we don't have that kind of hate. We have our problems, but we don't have that kind of hate. Let's hang on to that, everybody, please. And I'm running for county executive, and there's some signs back there. Go ahead and take them. You can have fun with those. Anyway, thanks for having us tonight. And again, Barry Buchanan, August 1st.
Thank you. Program for tonight. you very much for attending. I believe some of the candidates, maybe all of them, will be sticking around for a short amount of time, and feel free to introduce yourself and ask a question that we didn't ask. Our next all-hands meeting will be on, I believe it's the 21st of August. That's the third Monday in August, and we're going to be talking about school boards and school curriculum. Hopefully you can attend. Thank you very much. Good night.